One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David, one of your hosts, in any fact. But today, we are going to go on about a very... Well, Brandon, why don't you tell us what kind of movie are we going to be watching?
Well, we're going to continue our lovely stroll through the X-Strike Studios Hall of Fame with their second film called Silent Horror from 2005, directed by Rory O'Boyle and written by Rory O'Boyle. I don't think, was that the same one that did River City Rumble? I cannot remember. It was the same group.
Right.
But it is it's just one of those things. It just doesn't. No, it wasn't. Not at all. So, but we have a second movie from the group, a little bit more on the professional side for shot on video. I mean, anybody here has watched enough shot on video to know what that's about, at least for the most part. This particular one is an homage, there it goes, to Silent Hill and Resident Evil, and all things survival horror. Just out of curiosity, before we get into the first impressions, have either of you played Silent Hill, the original?
Yes.
I don't believe so.
How about Resident Evil?
You know better than I would, because you probably remember.
How about Resident Evil, any of those games?
I have definitely played many of the Resident Evil games.
So, and I know you've got some vague familiarity with both of those series, Jake. At least I think so. And we covered the Silent Hill movie. So, maybe this is good and comparable to that movie we covered.
Right. And we did do that one really creepy playthrough from one of the franchises. I can't remember. Silent Hill, wasn't it?
Although this particular film seemed to be more along the lines of Silent Hill than it was Resident Evil, because
its sequel film Resident Horror is the other way around.
They are visiting a town called Quiet Knoll.
Yep. Which,
believe it or not, in River City Rumble, I think the same town was Quiet Knoll.
Well, with this film, this has a bunch of people who are brought together by chance, or were they, to this cursed town where zombies and other horrors await.
I think they were brought together by the script.
Yeah, that did it too. So, Jake, is this your first time watching this film?
No, although I do admit I'd only seen this one once before, and I don't believe it left much of an impression the first go around. But I know you've shown me pretty much all the X-Strike ones at one point or another.
Yeah.
It was fun to revisit. It was a little, again, at least a step or two up from the previous one we covered in terms of basic quality, filmmaking quality and whatnot.
They actually made a comment in the commentary about he took a crash course in video editing and cinematography with this particular
right. Yeah. Well, it was pretty fun.
How about you, Dave? Is this your first time watching it?
This is my first time actually watching it. To be honest, I've watched River City Rumble and this one. I'd only collected them once you told me about them, and went and it goes from there. So this gave me a perfect chance to break out my silent horror film and watch it.
Hey, this is the perfect excuse to watch the X-Strike catalog.
Indeed.
So this is, of course, not my first time watching. I'll admit, the first time I did watch this one was my least favorite because I felt it dragged really, really horribly. But I'll admit, this time
More
around,
horribly than the skip.
I think that this time around, this is probably the third or fourth time I've watched this. I actually think I enjoyed a lot more of it. I paid attention a lot more. I made a point to watch it on. Well, I ended up watching it on my computer. I'll admit, but still, it was just kind of fun watching it through and getting some of the references. It definitely held up better this time around for me.
Could it have been that our because our Silent Hill watching was not too long ago that had an influence on your watching of it this time?
Well, I'm very familiar with the Silent Hill games. I've actually beaten the first 4 games in the series. As far as Resident Evil, I've beaten 1 through 7. So I'm pretty familiar with the survival horror genre, and I really love Silent Hill. I admit the 5th game still, I haven't been able to get myself to beat the game. It's just there's something about it that doesn't appeal to me like the others. I mean, the second.
Of course, go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, of course, this one, just like River City Rumble, they do also make references that are video game general references. That even if you don't know the games, if you have a passing familiarity with video games, you'll appreciate. And actually, one of the jokes I liked in this one was one of the same joke they made in Press Start, which again, we'll have to do that one of these days. But they made the same basic joke, which is, where'd you get all that stuff? Oh, there was a chest that was open. I just so you just go to steal it.
You never know when this odd
that
statue or you got to make sure you have a full inventory when you go
exactly. Yes.
But,
well, I guess having first time watched this though, I mean, it did somewhat drag in the very beginning, and there was a moment where they were foraging in this house, and it was like very dark. Like you could not see dude that was had all the snacks that you knew that he had, but you could see like the light on like one of the boxes or something like that. So to me, I feel like the lighting was a problem for the film in certain areas.
A lot of times when you get to some of these, I mean, that was one of my least favorite parts of Camp Blood 4 and 5, especially 4, because almost the last half of 4 was so dark, I couldn't see what was going on. Might as well have just played the sound. This one wasn't quite as bad as all of that, but it had little moments. The whole plot line, I'm just going to run through it real quick for sake of time, is you've got these groups of people, separate ones. You have this guy who is just kind of driving in there because he gets this letter from his, from a relation of his. Phone call, sorry. I'm mixing it up with the game. And and says that, come over here to this, but of course she's dead. Of course, this is a reference to Silent Hill 2, which the guy is brought in by a letter from his former dead wife saying, please come to this resort city where we used to hang out. And so he's investigating that. The others, of course, you've got this, the main female, I guess it's survivor girl, and her douchebag boyfriend, who apparently they're trying to find a rave.
Yeah.
And then you have an escaped convict and some other mysterious guy who is just kind of there at the time. They all end up interacting with each other in one way or another as they go through the city. and meet various strange monsters and another mysterious man who seems to have this amulet, which I also have. I've got the amulet hanging up in my bedroom, which I'll go more into that in a moment. And that is pretty much the whole of it, as it goes into this whole thing of like birthing a evil death god or something like that, which was going to be Gobblescat, but Gobblescat did not make it into this version of the film. It ended up showing up later on in Resident Horror, which is a sad thing.
Would Gobblescat want too much money?
Yeah, I know. It was just he's such an awesome character.
I saw he was listed in the credits.
I know.
Yeah.
They actually have one of the deleted scenes, if you look on the disc, has Gobblescat on it.
Okay.
I see you've got a pet there.
Yeah. He's a little silent horror himself.
So I guess we could take a look at the characters as they go through. Our main male lead, the guy who's coming in for the, what is his name? Is it Phil? I think it was Phil.
There was a guy called Phil.
Yeah.
But
that was the douche. That was the douche boyfriend.
Well, while we start with him, what did y'all think of him?
Which one? Which one?
The douchebag.
The raver?
The guy, the raver.
Well, he was a jerk and he was stupid and he died very quickly. That's really his entire character arc.
I didn't really feel too much for the boyfriend for anything. So
now, in his defense, and I may be skipping ahead a little bit, but in his defense, his girlfriend was annoying as hell.
Yeah. I did like the part in it where she's just trying to complain about everything, and he's just kind of partying with the glow sticks and all that. It's like, yeah, obviously he's not listening to you.
Right.
And of course, he doesn't last long in this one. He's the first kill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she, of course, finds a key mysteriously on a branch, which makes no sense unless you understand why they reference that.
Well, again, that's kind of basic video game logic, you know. It's like dude walking around picking up rocket shells on the ground just because, you know.
Yeah.
Or finding just random weapons everywhere, you know. It was just.
Or eating slimy turkey leg you find under a wall draping.
So what about the girl, the main girl, the survivor girl? What did you think of her?
Yeah.
I don't know what to think of her.
She
cast her to be annoying or something.
She
was whiny.
Yes. Extremely so.
Oh yeah.
So
and the actress was so.
So they made the comment in the commentary that she has the best natural B-movie acting skills in the business, and she doesn't even realize that's what she's doing.
It's mediocre acting, to say the least. At least, however monotone her voice is, I guess at least there is some enthusiasm in her acting ability, but not much in the sense of it being like hunky dory, if you know what I mean.
I'm reminded of the main female from Thanksgiving. I kept thinking that she's going to make the joke about John Benet Ramsey over and over again. But she, of course, becomes one of the main protagonists in this. But there's another protagonist who's driving through the snowy and sometimes not snowy landscape. And they did a pretty good job shooting those car scenes. But what did y'all think of him as a character?
The driver
that would be Mark London, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
The Brett Vanderbrook character.
Uh,
Well, he was he was there. He seemed to have very little interest in working with others. Wasn't really the most friendliest sort.
No.
well, he did offer her a ride.
Yeah.
And there was a part where he finds, and I thought this was an entertaining joke, because he finds these machine gun bullets later on. Looking for it because, it's like, obviously the bullets, so the gun must be coming up soon.
Yeah, and the gun never came out, by the way.
No.
So,
That would have frustrated me.
I was looking forward to that next part too, just so that he could go all Rambo on something. So.
Well,
they
then
probably didn't have the budget for it.
Other actual
Probably not.
protagonist is less of a blank slate, or wisecracking character. Well, he's more of the. He adds, I guess, a little bit more of that comedic element to it. The one who was rummaging through the chests as he goes along.
I think that was Simon. Yeah. But with Steve Smith, yeah.
I was trying to decide whether that hair of his was actually real or not.
And didn't they have the scene together? Tell me if I'm just imagining this. Where like
he was a total
dude
ass.
had to go.
Well, I know that he was a total ass.
Dude had to.
Okay, one of you had
Well, wasn't there a scene where like, yeah.
Okay, Jake, go ahead. You started the point.
I feel like there's that scene where the one dude was looking for something, and he's like had his hand down in the nasty.
Oh, yeah, that's the convict that he's with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, shows up with the key. He's like, I found the key.
I found the key. He kind of reminded me of Sneaker.
Yeah, that's the convict, and yeah, he is a. He's probably the most overacted of all the characters.
Eli.
Right.
But yeah,
that's Eli.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of, I think, Silent Hill 1, where you actually do legitimately have to reach into a toilet and pull out a key. I want to say that you.
Well, granted, you would probably not have that many people stealing your keys if that was the case.
At least it wasn't like Saw, where you had to actually like dig it out of a dead body or something like that.
We have enough of a Saw connection with the other movie.
Oh God, yeah. And well, we've already talked then about the convict, but what about the villain? There's two of them. But one of them doesn't get a lot of airtime.
There are several of them because
if you count the
monsters, yes. There's this one monster there that looks like it is dressed in a burlap sack and a tarp of some sort with what looks like a bee's someone who might have actually been a bee honey comber. But and then of course there was the one that was dragging around the skiff. That one kind of reminded me of the guy with the big sword in Saw and Saw 2.
Yeah, that was the pyramid head.
Right.
One. They did a fairly decent job of trying to emulate with what they had, as far as the looks were concerned. As far as plot and characters, before we start wrapping those up, Were there any particular funny jokes that you found entertaining throughout?
Oh, there was like one or two that I had thought were somewhat funny, but then now at the moment I can't remember them. But I guess what I thought was funny is that everything just seemed to be provided for them.
Well, yeah, it's a video game.
Exactly.
I mean, the guy picks up a gun and that's one of the other things. He picks up a gun at like a child's play park, and
I
just like
thought it was funny. I thought it was
And
funny.
where?
it was like off of a park bench at like a children's playground.
For kids.
I thought it was funny that all of a sudden a screen showed up, and it said press 1 for this and press 2 to jump off the roof. I thought that was funny.
That was actually a direct throwback to Resident Evil 3. Same thing with the chest. The chest thing was a Resident Evil 3.
With the energy drink?
Or actually, that was a Resident Evil callback with the chest. But yeah, that's the energy drinks were Silent Hill because you would drink energy drinks to feel better.
Okay.
And they says, how is
if you were wounded or anything like that, an energy drink would just perk you back up. Huh?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
I knew that. It's just I was just clarifying that.
The one plot point that I had found interesting, and one of the other friends of ours that had introduced me X-Strike also thought was entertaining, was the introduction of the concept of the zombie janitor.
Yes.
It's like, you ever wonder why the dead bodies aren't there anymore? It's like, no, I don't, because that's graphical and memory limitations. But no, it's the zombie janitor who just takes the dead bodies off out of the hall and cleans it up. He came in with his little spray bottle and mop.
Indeed.
Well, of course, then there was the zombie in the wheelchair. And of course, there was the zombie with the pick.
Well, the one with the wheelchair was hilarious because it was supposed to look all creepy going towards it, then it flashes back and he's in the wheelchair, just kind of being a total dick while he's just trying to flail after him.
Although there was one moment where it was kind of creepy, where it looked like this Grim Reaper thing was going after them in the woods. Where it was like a pinwheel kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was somewhat creepy. Just a little bit, because then the next creature seemed to be even bigger than that in a hooded thing. So it seems like there were definitely some oddities of monsters that they created.
Yeah.
So I give them that.
But with the bad guys, it was interesting to see the bad guys just the one bad guy just sitting there getting his hair cut by one of the zombies. He's like, "Are you using them? Why is one of them washing your car?" You're using the amulet to do that. And the amulet actually is an accessory that I own, and the reason for that is I bought this game way back. It's a collector's edition RPG for the PlayStation 1.
Okay.
And if you look closely enough, you can see the amulet is sitting right there, right above it.
Okay.
I don't have it sitting here because I didn't think to bring it down, but it's hanging in my bedroom at the moment. I mean, this was one heck of a.
So you recognize the amulet that they used, huh?
Yeah, because I had the game. I mean, it came from this this particular box, and I mean it's a good game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this game, and it was a great collector's edition. if Dan were with us, he would definitely recognize it because he recently picked up one of those not long ago. It is a rare piece, so it's kind of cool to have. But yeah, it's the amulet that the main character there wears in the game. But you could also use it as a double for an amulet that controls monsters from, a scary place.
Good times.
So before we move on, only one more joke from there, and then we'll move to, I guess, sound. Special effects. But there was one other thing where they showed them dying and saying, well, how do you know they're dead? There's a pool of blood. That's how you know.
Yeah.
Again, that's directly from Resident Evil. You knew the zombie was officially dead when you see the pool of blood.
Didn't he describe it as like he's dead when there's a big ass pool of blood or something like that?
Yeah. Which I found that entertaining. So
Yeah.
Any other
True.
thoughts about the plot, the kind of twist ending, or anything like that? Matter of fact, by the way, spoilers. This one actually most people could get a hold of because it is still available on their site for purchase. And it's not that expensive, like $5. So if you haven't gotten a copy of this, you should try and snag it. It's a pretty cool disc. It has a lot of good special features on it. But they did have that twist at the end that tried to set up the sequel film. Anybody catch who they were referencing with those two?
Not offhand.
No, not offhand.
Well, of course, the main guy that was there, they were kind of making him part Barry from the original Resident Evil, which the bad guy has basically held his family and said, you must work for me in order to guarantee the safety of your family. And of course, the main villain in Resident Evil is Captain Wesker. So they weren't even beating around subtle. They call him Captain Whisker in this particular version. And he put on the sunglasses. Just so you know, he's a douchebag.
Oh yeah.
But it did surprise me when they did what they did. He just goes and snaps the girl's throat at the fair. Snaps the girl's neck and at the end and kills her. I don't know. Did that catch y'all off guard on the first time?
First time maybe. I didn't expect that, but it wasn't exactly sudden as I thought. So in a way, I kind of somewhat expected it, almost. So that's the thing. This movie was kind of predictable.
It was supposed to be. If you understand what's going on. Did anybody have any relief when she was finally silent?
That's the horror of it.
So, looking at this from a special effects standpoint, and from a shot-on video standpoint, so let's not mix this up with like theater-ready films. This would be more on the level of something like, say, Camp Blood, or actually a little bit below that even.
They could have at least left some budget for some lighting.
Mm-hmm. Well, they could have done that for Camp Blood 4 too. They had more money.
I haven't seen Camp Blood 4, so I can't say.
Yeah, it just happens like that. And it really could be what monitor you're watching it on, because on my monitor it didn't have any problem with it. It's sort of like that scene with the shopkeeper in River City Rumble. On the monitor I was watching that on, I couldn't see anything in that scene. But some people were able to see it fine. So again, I guess it's really what kind of monitor you're watching it on.
True.
Oh, yeah.
But how about as far as the blood effects and the monsters themselves, as far as making them look fairly creepy and not super silly?
Well,
yeah.
For the most part, 3/4 of the monsters actually looked somewhat creepy. I mean, there was one moment where it seemed like there were some fast camera effects that they used, maybe for the one coming out of I don't know where it was coming from, but the one that looked like it had the um, what was that? The town that dreaded sundown down kind of
Oh,
look
yeah.
feel
I
to
need to
it.
see that one day. And what do you think, Jake?
far as the
Like creature
look and
designs
whatever.
or,
Oh
any
yeah,
type of special effects? With
yeah.
what
I mean, they were good.
you get like a couple $100 as your budget.
Yeah. No, with what they had to work with, I think it was effective.
I really liked how they did the car scenes in this because they had to really be creative with the car scenes. And how they were filming it. They had to film at an angle that was quite dangerous because they were doing it in the middle of a snowstorm, driving back and forth on one road on icy roads. And I thought that it came out pretty well, the way that they had the camera facing. It just, to me, whenever I look at a movie...
he hit Simon. So that's why he hit Simon.
They were making a joke. It's like, well, we had to hit everybody with the car in the movie. We tried to hit her with the car, but she didn't want to be hit by the car. We kept telling her how fun it was. They were talking about the other character that we didn't mention, the other, like the ghost girl that was there briefly. That was very hard to understand. Hello, Anderson. Yeah, cats. Kitties, man. But I also thought that they did a pretty cool job with some of the monsters, some of the effects that they used there. And there was another one that I can't think of the transition effect, the other major Silent Hill callback where they kind of transition it to the nightmare world. I thought that was a pretty cool transition. Because whenever you're looking at these, I really have to look at what they got. Like if this is James Cameron and he has a James Cameron budget, and this was what they came up with, my thought would be, what did you do with that money? Did you pocket it and run off? But for a budget like this, I kind of scale it to what they have, So some of the monster effects I liked, as you said, the one that had like the scythes for hands, moving them forward like that, that actually made that one look pretty creepy. And the final monster looked a little bit cool at the end. But they had a couple of things that they left out, like one of the chests, there was a monster hiding in one of the chests, and one of them, so they were doing a monster in a chest joke, and Gobble Scat was in it, and they just chopped his head off right away as kind of an anticlimactic battle. Also, the combat was not terrible. It wasn't. I think River City Rumble did a better job with the combat because several of them actually did have martial arts training. But still, I thought that some of them looked pretty good. It didn't look terribly like they were, coming nowhere near when coming down with the knives and hatchets. Apparently, some of the actors felt like they were a little bit too close with those implements there. So maybe that's why. Imagine. Well, if there's nothing else there, let's talk about the music.
There was definitely some music in there. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but there was definitely some music in there. I could hear it. I guess they had they had some kind of a band like making noise.
Very much Silent Hill inspired music. If you listen to the Silent Hill soundtrack, especially the third game, which, by the way, that's the soundtrack of the movie, was the third game soundtrack. It has a lot of similar feel. You could tell that they were utilizing those games as a backdrop for a way to create the music. I thought that it did a good job accentuating the what they call it exactly
Is that so?
accentuating the horror feel of the game or movie, I should say.
Mhm.
And for what it was there for, I thought it did a good job highlighting those scenes. Oh, I guess that's all.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I like the music. I wasn't blown away by it. It didn't really, but I definitely noticed it as fairly effective.
Sorry, Cat wants to play. He brought me his toy. But
Well, he is cat. You must bow to his whim.
well, at the end of it all, I think this was a definite step up from River City Rumble. And it had a far fewer cringy moments. Matter of fact, I don't think there really, some of the language was dated, but nowhere near like that other one was. I didn't have any moments at all this time around where I was like, oh gosh, I feel kind of embarrassed to be watching this.
Well, the dialogue was definitely somewhat dated, but you know, like you said, it definitely did not, and wasn't as nearly as bad as the previous film.
I think they were getting better. Now, I'll admit, the next film, when we reach it, P. Rappa's Raptastic Adventure, or no, Ghetto-tastic Adventure, which right there, that just makes me cringe. I remember it being funny, but at the same time, with that name, I have to wonder. But with that being said, why don't we go ahead and talk about favorite scenes so we can start wrapping up. So, Jake, what is your favorite scene of silent horror?
I think we've already mentioned it. A lot of it was just like that general kind of that gamer humor that was in there, the talking about the chest and talking about the zombie janitor, and you know those moments just amuse me.
I think the moment that amused me the most was when what's his name and Eli were in the orphanage, and
what did I do?
You're still here.
Yeah, you're still with us.
Okay. Okay. There we go.
But
the janitor.
He was Eli and him were in the orphanage, and that was when the pyramid character was just standing there with his back to them, and when Eli started talking about worms in his eyes and stuff like that, for some reason that was just hilarious to me. I don't know about you guys.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. So my favorite scene is the one where one of the characters dies. I can never remember his name, but he's laying there and he sees the person come in there with the bucket and the mop and starts cleaning up the blood, and he's like, "He's real, but wait, I'm not dead yet. I didn't even find the gun." As he's just getting dragged off by the zombie janitor. That scene, even from the first watching, that was the thing I remember the most about that film. I just found that amusing. This film had a lot of pacing issues, but I think it had a lot of notes that were fun and jokes that landed home a lot better and more clearly than the previous. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and wrap? So, Jake, tell us about yourself.
All right. Well,
Other
I'm
than your
Jake. I'm hee. I'm Jake. I'm a big time movie fan, movie, television, anime, what have you, any sort of media. I enjoy it immensely. Um, and as such, I frequently guest on Septum Sin versus the World, where we talk about our media, our pickups, and the way where we have some fun pickups this week. And we have a very fun list this week of the
Oh,
best films of 2019. That'll be coming out later. It's
big
good
list.
times. Yep. And well, I do have my own YouTube page, Kotobuki Jake, dedicated to nature and the natural world. I keep talking about it. One of these days, I will do something more with it. It will happen. To you.
Well, before I hand it back to Dave, of course, I'm Septum
Mm-hmm.
Sen of Septum Sen versus the World. We are a channel that is all about that physical media. We love showing that nice physical media footage there. So
Mm-hmm.
we are actually getting close to another milestone with our channel. We are at 196 subscribers. Almost to 200.
All right.
Yeah, I know. It's been what? How many years now? But hey, we had like 4 people join like just recently this week, so that's pretty impressive.
Cool.
So there's 4 more to go, and we're at 200. So hey, that's awesome. But if you like physical media, come see us, and of course subscribe to us. That would be very good. We have a video. We have a video dedicated to X Strike on the channel.
Cool. And my name is David Strachey. I run Inside Movies Galore as well as Delusions of Grandeur. Delusions of Grandeur. Sometimes we have discussions here for pre-shows to the Inside Movies Galore showings. And I also do some of some physical media videos on this channel, as well as doing my own video reviews. So definitely check some of those out. I'll be, now that I've got all of my movies organized in bins, which I just recently completed. In fact, not an hour or so before I started the movie for tonight. So I'll be trying to go on and show you what I have, and as I get it. So, but definitely check some of those videos out. I have a few that I put out there this past weekend, and I'll probably be putting some more out before the weekend as well. So so definitely check some of those out, and then maybe I'll be able to finally sit down and actually do some reviews. So in any case, we have another discussion planned for tonight. It is about a musical that gets a little bloody. So let's turn down the lights, put up our feet, and see if we can't enjoy the next discussion on the Inside Movies Galore channel. So everyone, good afternoon and evening wherever you are. Thank you so much. And
Good night, all.